Let's go ahead and apply this functionality to the rest of the pages, and you will learn along the way. What I'm going to do is just go through the errors that the compiler is now throwing, because obviously we've added new functionality to the base page class. So we're going to go through and fix those functionalities for each of the pages. So here, it's going to take me to the student dashboard page, which implements the base page class. And if we hover over, it complains that using generic type base page requires one type argument. So we're going to fix this by passing in a dynamic type of object repository that it requires. We're going to call this student dashboard page object repository. And of course, now the compiler is going to complain that it doesn't exist. So utilizing resharper, I'm going to create a type called student object repository. And this is a class that we created here. And if we look at this error, it's going to complain that our class that we just created doesn't contain a parameterless constructor. So again, utilizing my IDE, I'm just going to implement the missing members. So now that we implemented the missing members, this class is sufficient. You can see how now our student dashboard page is going to create the base page object repository and just pass in the driver so that the base page object repository can store a reference to our WebDriver. I'm going to move this into its own file. So I'll pick this selection over here just so that it's cleaner. Let's go back to our student dashboard page and fix the rest of the errors. So now you can see that over here in the constructor, the compiler is complaining that there is no argument given that corresponds to the required formal parameter repository of base page. So what we need to do is, if we look at the base page constructor, we can remember that it requires a dynamic type of T object repository. So we just created that object repository. So all we have to do is initialize it so that the base page has a reference to that class. New student dashboard page object repository is initialized. And of course, the compiler complains that there is no argument given that corresponds to the formal parameter driver. So we just need to pass in driver. So that now our base page is going to be initialized with a driver that the base page is going to store, and our object repository is going to store a driver. So now what that's going to allow us to do is remove these properties from our student dashboard page and store them in the object repository. So I'm going to go ahead and select these. I'm going to navigate to the definition here and paste these properties here. So of course this one is not going to be private any longer. I'm going to make it public. And now we'll save this and go back to our student dashboard page. And of course, the student dashboard page is now going to complain that HTML tag doesn't exist, and neither does resume user interactions course button. But that's very easy to fix, because now in our base page class, we have a reference to the object repository. So utilizing the object repository, we can get our elements that now live there. Object repository dot, and you can see all the options that come up, which are obviously the two elements that we have in there. And one of them is HTML tag. Also, we can do the same thing here. Dot, and resume user interactions course button now also exists in our object repository. So you can see how amazing that is, because now whenever we need to interact with an element, we store it in the object repository and we access it using the object repository member.